this if you've got this far. So, funding is a feature of only derivatives exchanges, not spot exchanges, only derivatives exchanges, such as BitMEX, Bybit, etc. Funding is related to the premium or discount between the mark price and the index price. Now you're probably like, what the fuck did he just say? So let me explain. You'll understand it by the end of this. Funding serves as a tool to disincentivize the market from entering positions which would cause the mark price to run away from the index price, or vice versa. So let's look at this photo over here. Actually, no, let's read the rest of this first. So the mark price is the price of Bitcoin on the actual derivatives exchange. So if I want to buy Bitcoin on BitMEX, the mark price is the price that Bitcoin is trading at on BitMEX. The index price is the average price of Bitcoin across all other major exchanges. So like Binance, Coinbase, etc. The index price is a separate calculation. So there's two prices here, mark and index. Mark is the BitMEX. So there's an example here, the supermarket. The mark price is the price of the good in the supermarket, and the index price is the average price of that same product in every other supermarket. So when you walk into a supermarket, you pay the mark price. However, you can still determine the average price of that product from all the other stores. So that's sort of that's a good metaphor. And here's a photo here to sort of display why you don't want the mark price above the index price. If everyone is trying to buy, we're going to the moon, everyone's here to buy, and no one's here to sell, might be a good time to lock in profits. It causes instability in the market, because if everyone wants to do this, it's going to be hard for them, because there's not many people who will do this. A market is only a market because you have two people, a buyer and a seller. If everyone wants to buy, who is going to sell to them? There's going to be no one to sell to them. So you need an even amount of buyers and sellers to keep the price, the mark price and the index price fair. Because maybe on BitMEX, there is way more people trying to buy than on all the index price exchanges. So let's say the index is Binance and Coinbase and FTX, these three exchanges. And then the mark price is BitMEX. If everyone on BitMEX is trying to buy, and now the mark price is higher, BitMEX is trading at a different price to all these other exchanges. And that's instability. They don't want that instability. They want all the prices to be the same on all the exchanges, because stability is key. Stability is really important. And so funding, if the prices are different, they have a funding tool, which we'll explain in a second, which helps to rebalance this. So there is two ways to measure funding. It's either positive or negative. Positive means that longs pay shorts for the privilege to be long. So this part here, this first bit, it's going to take a second for your head to understand, because it's like multiple mechanics sort of at play here. But basically, when the funding is positive, longs pay shorts. So buyers pay sellers for the privilege to be buying. When funding is negative, shorts pay longs, so it's the inverse. What this feature does is it disincentivizes traders from market buying positions in the direction that would further distance the mark price from the index price. So let's say the mark price of Bitcoin is 10,000 and the index price of Bitcoin is 9,900. The mark price is above the index price, which means there's positive funding. And the positive funding is going to make people on the BitMEX exchange have to pay a fee to the people who are shorting, because they don't want more buyers on BitMEX, because the price on BitMEX is higher than the price on the other exchanges, the index. And so I know this is probably getting complex for you guys, but bear with me. So the funding payment is the payment the longs have to pay to the shorts. Positive funding equals everyone's buying. Negative funding equals everyone is selling. Obviously, it's not everyone, but it's just an exaggeration to help explain. So the mark price above the index price means that people on BitMEX are buying more than people on the other exchanges. And so to make the market index price even, what they do is on BitMEX, they charge the people who are buying a fee for the privilege to be buying. And that means that it becomes more expensive to be buying and less people are going to buy. If less people are buying, the price comes down. If the price comes down, it's even. So the funding calculation basically is calculated every 8 hours. And funding is typically measured between a range of 0 to 0.2%. It doesn't really go more than that, generally speaking. So, yeah, as you can see here in this example, funding is positive at 0.05%. What that means is that every 8 hours, 0.05% of a position that is long is going to get taken away and given to someone who is short, who holds that position open. So if it stays at this rate every 8 hours, that's the percent that this person will lose who's in a long. So traders who are long are now incentivized to close those positions, which helps equalize mark price and index prices by providing sell pressure, right? They're trying to even shit out. And also, traders are also incentivized to go short and collect funding, which further increases sell pressure. So what someone on this exchange might do is they might short Bitcoin on BitMEX, where the mark price is higher, collect the funding, and they might long on another exchange that isn't derivatives, like Coinbase, an equal amount, so that they just collect the funding amount. Because imagine, if you short Bitcoin at 11,000 on BitMEX and you long Bitcoin at 10,000 on Coinbase, and you're hoping that the prices even out, you can collect the difference. Because you shorted at 11, it drops to 10, you made $1,000 profit. The price is still at 10, so you don't lose anything here. So you made a profit, right? And also, you were being paid to be short. So you made the $1,000, and you also made a percent of the longs that had to pay you, because they had to pay for the privilege to be long. So that's a way that you can make money, and it's a way to stabilize it. Here's an exemplar. This is a really weird exemplar. Imagine David owns a bakery, and in this bakery, this yellow fucking muffin, everyone keeps buying it. And this brown muffin, no one's buying it because it looks like poo, for example. It looks bad, right? They like this yellow one. But David, he wants stability with his stock. He wants there to be an even amount of brown and an even amount of yellow muffins. So what David does is he's come up with this genius idea. This genius idea he's made is done to incentivize people to buy brown muffins and to disincentivize people to buy the yellow. So what he does is he says, anyone who buys a yellow muffin, they have a 10% penalty. And anyone who buys the brown muffin gets a 10% discount. And what he does is if someone buys the yellow muffin, that 10% is given in the form of a discount to the brown muffin buyer. And that way he's able to even out the supply of his different products by making certain products temporarily more expensive and certain products temporarily cheaper. And that way he can bring stability to his stock. Same with these exchanges. They don't want their exchange to be more expensive than another exchange. They want it to be even, because that's how a fair market trades. So David has created a system to incentivize brown muffin buyers and disincentivize yellow muffin buyers in order to bring stability to his stock. Derivatives exchanges do the same. They've created a system called funding to incentivize/disincentivize longing/shorting depending on which side needs support in order to bring stability to its exchange price. I hope that makes sense. So how is this data useful? Why do we need to know what the prices are on different exchanges? So funding shows us which direction the average market participant thinks price is going. So if I own BitMEX, the exchange where all the degenerate traders go, I know for a fact that they're all losing, 90% of them are losing money, right? So if 90% of a group of people lose money from what they're doing. If I just do the opposite of what they do, I can make money, right? If they're losing from what they do, I just do the opposite and I'll consistently make money because they consistently lose money, right? That's how it works. So if on this exchange BitMEX, the mark price goes above the index price, which means that all the idiots on BitMEX are buying and they're pushing the mark price up, that means there's positive funding. If funding's positive, it means that on BitMEX, the buyers are actually they're very bullish. They think the price is going up, so they're happy to pay a little bit more for the privilege to be long, right? So they're bullish. But if these people are wrong, then shouldn't I be doing the opposite and selling? So when funding is positive generally, you want to be selling because you don't want to be buying when these dumb people are buying because they're wrong on average. You want to be doing the opposite of them to be right on average. So the funding is a calculation based upon all the traders on the exchange, right? So if there's 100,000 people on BitMEX, the funding is based on what 100,000 people are doing. So the mantra of trading is, in investing, buy when others are fearful and sell when others are greedy. So if based off this big sample size, the average person is really bullish because the funding's high, then you need to sell when others are greedy because they're paying more money for the privilege to be buying because they think the price is going up really bad because they're emotional. So that's why we need to do the opposite, and that's why funding is a sentiment tool, because funding represents what that trader is thinking and feeling. If they're happy to pay 1%, a 1% fee every 8 hours to just have the privilege to be long, they must be pretty bullish and they must be pretty emotionally greedy. I hope you guys can sort of see where I'm getting here. So, to summarize, we basically trade against the herd of derivatives retail traders. Their collective sentiment is seen through funding, and as mentioned in the overview of Bitcoin price action previously, short-term price action moves in the direction that liquidates the largest amount of traders. So this should be really obvious for you guys now. I hope it's really obvious. If funding is positive, these degens are bullish. If they're bullish, the price going down is going to make them lose money. If the direction of Bitcoin's price is moving based upon which way can make the most amount of people lose money, if everyone thinks the price is going up, the price is going to go down because that's going to make them lose money. So that's basically how it works. So applying funding. Here we have funding data on a chart. Green is positive funding. Here, positive, 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 positive. Red is negative funding. Negative, negative, negative. As you can see, negative funding, that was the bottom, that was the Corona crash. Negative funding, that was the bottom. Negative funding, that was the bottom. Negative, bottom, negative, bottom. Pretty obvious, right? Negative funding is the opposite of positive. So positive here, that's the top. Positive here, this didn't work very well, but we have a reason for that. Not sure if I'll cover that in this video, but there's a reason. But as you can see, here, positive funding, the top, positive funding, the top. Pretty accurate, right? It's pretty decent, 7 out of 8. I guess maybe it's 7 out of 9, something like 8 out of 9 or something. Pretty good. So this is the funding data, that's the price. As you can see, it's decently accurate. And that's how funding works. It represents the sentiment. See how big this spike is? That means that traders were really bearish because they were willing to pay 0.3% every 8 hours. So they were paying 1% every day of their position for the privilege of being short at the bottom. So what does that mean? That means they were bearish, which means that it's the bottom because they're bearish, because they're dumb and they lose money. So let's bring this down. What makes funding unique from every other market analysis tool? Funding doesn't suffer from alpha decay. It doesn't matter how many people in crypto look at the funding data. If funding is negative, traders are bearish. If funding is positive, traders are bullish. It doesn't matter how many look at it because the data cannot be manipulated. It is what it is. Funding can never be a trap. There's never a universe where oh, the funding's been positive for 3 weeks, it must be the top. Oh, it went higher. No, it doesn't happen. No. If funding is positive like that, and you can see the market is overextended, it's the top. You can't manipulate that. It's too big of a tool that you could